to Mr. Bannon here. Up to now, it has actually a lot of a meaning, in-depth meaning. What would he and the Western media would do? What kind of action they take? Or that they would just remain to be like immobile, not to do anything? What is your view, Mr. Bannon? 这个是这样的，西方的媒体做的太。
But once again, this shows you the power of personal engagement. It was the people of Hong Kong, not the elite, not the people who've made all the money in Hong Kong, not the people that control the big institutions in Hong Kong, not the people who control the media in Hong Kong. This was working class and middle class people in Hong Kong from Kowloon side that came today into Central and had over 1 million people. You know, we're hearing estimates from 1,300,000 or just over 1 million to 1.5 million or 6. And they forced the Western media. I've just been going through my news updates, and whether it's the Guardian, the BBC, the Wall Street Journal, every headline now says massive protest in Hong Kong. So this was, Miles, the people in Hong Kong forcing the Western media to cover this by the scale of it. As Sasha said earlier, I think since the Article 23 demonstrations at the beginning of the 21st century, I think in 2002 or 2003, which had 500,000 people, you haven't seen this type of intensity. People also that are watching this that are not familiar with Hong Kong, the Hong Kong people are known as not being political. Hong Kong is a town that's really always been above politics. In other words, people are there to work, they're there to make money, they're there to make a living, to build a future. It's the reason Hong Kong's been so successful. They kind of have never really had to deal with politics. They just want to get on with life, to get on with their personal lives and not be bothered, and they won't bother anybody else. They are now forced into politics, and the reason is the basic freedoms that were kind of guaranteed under the British and really guaranteed under the handover in 1997, you know, one country, two systems. Now the CCP has shown that's a lie. The CCP has been kind of, as you know, Miles and Sasha, have really acted like it's a lie since day one. But now it's an open lie with this extradition treaty. I think one of the powers today that we saw from these young people in the square, and what I really liked before the signal got cut off on the stage, is consistently people in Hong Kong are calling out Carrie Lam. They're calling out these phony members of the Legislative Council. I think they have the majority. It's their votes that are driving this extradition treaty, and they're putting the false patina of democracy on it, saying, oh, it's by majority rules. This is the radical cadre of the CCP, have corrupt politicians and traitors like Carrie Lam that are working with them and acting to suppress the Hong Kong people. Remember, the freedom of the Chinese people is the central issue of the early 21st century, right? It's in mainland China, but also you see in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and unless the Chinese people are free, bad things are going to happen. And so Hong Kong now becomes the center of this. And I think what's going to be very interesting is what happens at midnight. You saw that there was quite a crowd before the signal was cut down right outside the Legislative Council's offices in Central, and it looked to me like tens of thousands of people there listening to speeches. It's going to be very interesting. We've seen the police start to react earlier when the crowd started to come outside of their lanes. It'll be very interesting. We've already heard from a number of patriots in Hong Kong to say, hey, I'm not going home. We're going to stay here until this law is, you know, not put into place. But I think it's culminating this week into I think a major confrontation between freedom-loving people in Hong Kong and Carrie Lam and really her puppets that are puppets to Wan Xishan and Xi and the radical cadre in Beijing. So the good news is the Western media has been forced to cover this. It was the lead story in the BBC. It's got headlines in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal now that says and the headlines say over 1 million people take to the streets in Hong Kong. So this is, it's been quite a day, and I think we've still got a long way to go, Miles.
What do you think the American government should do? The Trump administration, how should the American government support freedom in Hong Kong? And of course, the Chinese government will scream, interfering with our internal affairs. But freedom is not internal. Here's that Hong Kong problem is related to South China Sea and all these problems. So what's your proposal?
You're dead spot on once again, Sasha. Here's, I think, what has to happen, I think what will happen, is that, remember, President Trump's really the first American president really to engage the CCP in this economic war they've been running against all countries. And they're running this economic war on the shoulders of the enslaved Chinese people. Remember, the whole scam here on Wall Street, the City of London, Frankfurt, and the global corporatist is to basically make cheap products off of slaves in China and sell it to the unemployed and underemployed throughout the rest of the world, and they take the profits. This has been this great criminal activity, I call it, of the early 21st century that has really tried to break the back of old hundred names of hard-working Chinese people in mainland China. I think that the United States has to do exactly what they agreed to in 1997. The nations of the world have to come together and go back to the 1997 agreement. Remember, a deal was made in 97. The world was comfortable with that. Hong Kong people were comfortable with that. The Chinese Communist Party was comfortable with that. And that deal was very simple. Hong Kong people can govern themselves. It was very specifically laid out. And here's the point. If any of that agreement's breached, then to me the thing ought to be torn up, and I think the Hong Kong people ought to declare their independence. It's either the entire deal or no deal. What you can't have is this creeping thing. So my point to the U.S. government or President Trump is that let's just go back to 1997. Margaret Thatcher cut a deal with Deng Xiaoping and their administration to say, one country, two systems, and that the Hong Kong people have proven under British rule that they are fully prepared to govern themselves, and that for 50 years it was supposed to be a complete governance, complete democracy by a legislative council that was going to be democratically elected, and only the laws could be changed by the Hong Kong people. The Chinese Communist Party made an absolute commitment to the world that they would not come in and interfere. And what we've seen, and we've seen now for 15, 20 years, they've taken it back little by little. There's been these protests, the Yellow Umbrella Movement, it's been Occupy, it's been the Article 23. This is all an argument about the same thing. What the Chinese Communist Party never had any intention of honoring this deal. So it's not just the United States. Great Britain, the United States, the industrial powers, Japan, Singapore, all nations, and I think we ought to call a conference and say exactly what's going on here. We agreed to a deal that the Hong Kong people could govern themselves in 1997. It's either that deal or the Hong Kong people should decide about what they want to do. And I would advocate for the people in Hong Kong, you either have the deal you agreed to in 1997, you say, hey, look, we're independent, we're going to go on our own. It is absolute, total racism to think that the Chinese people and to think that people in Hong Kong and Taiwan cannot govern themselves. This is absolutely absurd. I don't even know why we're discussing this. This is the 21st century. Virtually the entire world has democracy and freedom. How can the Chinese people, with as much as they've accomplished, how an ancient civilization how can the Chinese people not have freedom, right? So to me, it's very simple. In Hong Kong, either go back to the original deal, and the Hong Kong people are fair people, say, hey, we agreed to, Britain agreed to it, we agreed to it, the Chinese Communist Party agreed to it. We go back to that deal, which gives us the full ability and no more phony representatives like Carrie Lam that are basically imported and put there by CCP, so they control a majority of the Legislative Council. So under the false patina of democracy, they say, oh yeah, but these are really voted on. And you saw how hot and heated it got last week in the Legislative Council when it was almost a fist fight. We should go back to that. We should go back to that. Or, to me, the people in Hong Kong, the people there tonight should declare their independence, and then the nations of the world should have their back. This is one of the most absurd conversations we've ever had, to think that the people in Hong Kong cannot govern themselves.
Yeah, here's one thing I want to touch is about racism. I know you're accused of being a racist a lot, and honestly, I think you are the least race, sort of I never sensed anything like that. But the left are the real racists. My former boss was such a racist in Chinese. You can't govern yourself.
By the way, this Amanda Bennett and all these liberals in the United States are complete racists because they act like the Chinese people can't govern
exactly.
themselves.
And the Chinese government acts like you people don't deserve to govern yourself, and all the American.
Sasha, this is one of the most absurd conversations in modern politics.
Exactly.
How can we be even in a conversation that the Chinese people in Chinese mainland can govern themselves? Certainly they can govern themselves. The Chinese people are not children. They've accomplished more than virtually any other people on earth on the tremendous pressure and tremendous oppression. Look what they've accomplished. But the people in Hong Kong certainly can govern themselves. They were under British rule for many years. The British even said, which the mother of parliament said that the Hong Kong can govern themselves. The original deal, and this is why this is a lesson to the world, this is a lesson to Trump and these people in this trade deal. The radical cadre of the Chinese Communist Party never has any intention of ever honoring any commitment they ever make. This deal was negotiated by Thatcher and Patton and these British politicians for 10 years. It was negotiated. Time and time and time. It was approved in Parliament. This thing went through a huge discussion because China, even more than India, was the golden colony. I mean, that was where all the cash was made. So for the British to give it up, it was traumatic. And what they did, there were so many close relationships, and Britain had so much money there. They said this deal has to be agreed to. And people went on and on and on how the Chinese Communist Party were going to prove to the world that they could make a deal with the West and they could honor a deal. And what we've done, and that's what's so powerful about this march today, the Hong Kong people have come and said, this is enough nonsense. They have been trying to strip away our freedoms from day one. And now we're at a situation where, and here's the really thing that gets me, Carrie Lam and these people who are Hong Kong Chinese have betrayed their own countrymen and acting as puppets for the CCP. And so I think that this is outrageous, and I think we ought to go back to the 1997 agreement, or the Hong Kong people just say, you know what, heck with this, we're declaring our independence, come and get us.
Yeah, you see the one argument among the Chinese government said, oh, we Chinese people are so not well educated. But Hong Kong people are among the best educated people in the world, and Chinese people are now quite well educated. And
I've been all over the world. Let me say something about education. Mm-hmm. My grandfather went to the 3rd grade. Okay, my father only went to high school. I went to Georgetown, and I'm an honors graduate of Harvard. My grandfather and my father are 10 times smarter than I am, and they're 10 times smarter than anybody I met at Harvard. So trust me, old 100 names in China, in mainland China, is very smart. You know why? They have common sense. 1,000 times. They have common sense. Common decency and hard work. This is what, remember, democracy is not based upon that you have to be super educated. Democracy is based upon one thing. You're a free man or woman. The only thing we need is the freedom of the Chinese people in the mainland and and this is why the CCP, why they make it such a big deal about this. It's not just they want all the cash and everything out of Hong Kong. They definitely want that. But they understand that every day the Hong Kong people are free, and every day the Hong Kong people can show they can govern themselves, puts a lie to the regime in Beijing. Why do we need you if we can do it ourselves? People have to understand all the great accomplishments in mainland China of the Chinese people. What they've built is despite of the CCP, not because of the CCP. All of this economic miracle, it's been a tremendous economic miracle. It is because of the hard work, tenacity, grit, and common decency of the Chinese people, not because the radical cadre. These radical cadre is nothing but a criminal class, just like Mussolini, just like Hitler, just like throughout the 20th century. All they are is another group of gangsters there to rule on to the basic common person, and that's why they're going to be overthrown, and they understand that Hong Kong is a place they've got to put down the people in Hong Kong. To show that Hong Kong people are free is absolutely to put a lie to the entire logic of their rule.
半农先生说到这里的时候呢，我们要谈到香港的有一位年轻的先生我们很高兴在你谈这位香港很多年轻的学生
because there are a lot of Hong Kong students joined the demonstration. In fact, that and then the 50% of the people supporting the June 4th were also the young people in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong young people are really moving us. And now Hong Kong, they are threatened by great. There is a Hong Kong person threatened greatly by the CCP. You see, anyone should actually talk about their own political view and political incline. Nobody's view should be judged by being a traitor, right? No, nobody should actually judge by Hong Kong Chinese government and to be a fugitive. Now that there is a Tony Chong. Now this Tony Chong, he is a young person in Hong Kong. He was actually a Democratic Party of Hong Kong, and then he set up headquarters in Hong Kong. Now, can he? What can he do? We don't know. What is his view? We don't know. But the thing is that China should not threaten his view or threaten his movement or his freedom. And then you know that he actually was one of the person that who was expressing his democratic view. He had two other supporters who actually escaped to Germany. Now that we are not now talking to Tony Chong, we are connecting the line with Tony Chong now. Mr. Luther?
但愿你不要被看死掉了。再呀，你没进来呀，就把 Tony 先生拉进来呀。
Mr. Tony Chong, is he here?
我没看到啊。
We don't see him.
估计 Sarah 给拉别的房间去了吧？
看到网上他很多他的
Maybe he's being put into another
非常有兴趣。
Sarah 见了人就拉走，你咋弄？你说是吧？
Where is Tony Chong? Oh, he's
在
here.
哪里呀？Tony，
先把声音接进来，老家。
So perhaps we can actually connect the line.
这是 Tony Chen。
Is Tony? He's in Europe.
Yeah.
Berlin.
Tony now, Tony 是在柏林吗？是在
No,
德国
Tony
吗
in Hong Kong.
Tony 是在 Tony is in
I
Hong
thought
Kong.
you said he was in Europe.
Yeah.
他不是在欧洲。
Another guy.
No, his supporters in Europe.
Is the Mr. Huang?
是这次6·9这个运动的组织者之
So
一啊。
he is
So
one of
this
the
is the
organizers
Tony
of
Zhong,
our June
this is the
9th
movement
in
today. This is the
movement.
leader, one leaders.
Yeah, students.
Students, yeah.
Wonderful.
刚刚宣布今晚留守。
So that in fact that they announced, all students announced that they're going to stay overnight in the central headquarters.
They will stay tonight.
They are going to stay
They will
overnight.
stay in the protest.
Stay in the protest. Good.
我们可以把班农线送过去，跟他一起住那。
So we are going to stay over tonight then.
He doesn't need any sleep.
怎么还没接啊？
Good.
Yeah, you want to go to Hong Kong?
Yes. Let's get the plane.
Hey, you will get arrested.
Yeah, we might.
I play in the
Yeah,
Teterboro. You can fly to Hong Kong.
Miles may be the first extradited case.
可能我们是第一个被引渡的案子了。如果是我们都飞到香港的话，如果是文贵以及是巴农都飞到香港，
A pre-extradition.
那可能是在没到的以后呢，我
现在
们
班农先生和我要飞香港，可能是全世界最大新闻了。
Yeah.
哎，加大屏幕，路德先生，
we
路德
need
上我
to
们看不见。
enlarge the screen.
Yeah, here's our.
不是，我们看不见 Tony Chen 先生，我
If we
们看
can't get-
Tony Chen。
还在连线中。
If we can't get
we
Tony,
cannot
is Tony on?
Not
connect
yet. Not yet. Not
Is
yet.
in the middle of
If we can't get
connecting.
them, I want to bring up something Sasha said,
那如果是
is
不能
that
连
which
线，我
is
想
quite
说
interesting
小的一
and I
点，
think quite profound.
就是说是
In the United States and in Europe, I just got back from, 50 to 60% of young people
年轻人啊
don't like capitalism because we kind of have this kind of new feudalism in capitalism where the very wealthy take everything for themselves. In socialism, here we're coming back alive.
Tony，
那我们又看到现场，
等一下，还没有。
Not
还没有
yet.
接
You can
稍等
keep talking.
No, but what Sasha said is interesting that the Tony's movement is a pro-capitalist movement because the
哎，Tony，Tony，
托尼陈来了吗？
Yeah. Got it.
听到我没有
这是
？Tony，
资本主义的一个的行动。
It's on.
托尼你好，你把你视频画面打开好吗？视频。
现在不行了，我还有东西要做。
I can't open up the screen because I have something else that I need to do.
那你现在连线可以吗？
Can we connect with you now?
还有东西要做。
No, I have other things I need to do.
喂。
Hello.
还要再等一会儿。那
So we need to wait for a while, right? So in that case, we will go back to the live broadcasting, talking with Mr. Bannon first. Mr. Bannon is just talking about that 50-60% of the students are actually socialist supporters. Now, Mr. Bannon, he had taught me a lot about how he perceived things, and then how he has unique perception about how he perceived uniquely about the world's politics, and also he understood thoroughly about the grassroots level, and then also that we see that very clearly why that the elites in Hong Kong did not join the demonstration. He understood very well. So today we are going to ask Mr. Bannon another core question. We saw the Hong Kong police, right? That we see that the Hong Kong people are actually obeying the law, very disciplined, and Hong Kong police. And yet, according to the hooligan instruction command issued by the government, that they blocked the road that's supposed to be actually a path for the people. And then they blocked that road. And so in the political field, so they must utilize the absolute power of control, thoroughly destroy the absolute justice, and that is a dictatorship. Because people must be in the weaker side. And so, Mr. Bannon, what do you think? So what is Hong Kong? What is China? How do you see Hong Kong's police behavior today? 他们很明显的
this protest movement. And one of the reasons I think they did it is because the scale of it. They had, I don't believe they were planned for over 1 million people. They thought at most this would be a couple of 100,000. And so what they saw today was an outpouring, and what was most impressive to me was it was every element of Hong Kong society. You had every age from middle school all the way up to people in their 70s. And this is under 90-degree heat and 90% humidity. So it was another kind of, standard miserable Sunday weather-wise in Hong Kong, yet everybody turned out. And I think that shocked the police. You saw that the police blocked access. They did not want people to get down to the Legislative Council. They did not want people to get into the central government district, because what they're afraid of is what the images look like. Sasha understands this, that once you get down there, the pictures of 1 million people surrounding that, and young people getting up on stage saying, this is not democracy, this is not freedom, this is not what the Chinese Communist Party agreed to. That's an image that the CCP cannot have up flashing around the world, because that puts to a lie everything they're telling the world, that, oh, this is Carrie Lam and really Hong Kong people. Remember what the CCP is saying is that we have really nothing to do with this. This is just Carrie Lam. And what really upsets me is Carrie Lam's using this kind of murder case in Taiwan to say we have to do it now. It's so important because we have to be able to extradite this person that murdered the young 20-year-old Hong Kong girl, which is a complete lie. Even Taiwan has said we can have other ways to extradite the person. So you saw today the police did not want people to get down around the Legislative Council. You saw them funneling in certain areas, and we've gotten photographs that have been sent to us about using the pepper spray, etc. What the CCP will not allow to have happen. They will not allow to have the people in Hong Kong take their freedom back. You will see the PLA, People's Liberation Army, and the police, I think, get much more forceful. Like I said before, this to me is an opening act. This is not going to go away. If that Legislative Council basically on Wednesday votes to execute and put this into place, I think you're even going to have a bigger outpouring. But this is an opening act of the first battle of Hong Kong versus the radical cadre of the CCP.
谢谢班农先生。 哎，萨莎，你今天你看到香港的
Thank
这
you,
个
Mr.
这个
Bannon.
群
So,
众和这
Sasha,
个
what
执
do
法，
you
让人
see
感到很
about the
因为美国
extradition
的美国
law?
一
Now,
游行也是暴乱，也有扔石头的。
if it is Hong
你看
Kong,
香
if
港
it is
老百
the
姓
U.S.,
多么的
of
有
course that they are going to,
这个问题
of
就是
course, are
香
having
港一
chaos.
贯就
But
在
then
英
in
国
Hong
统
Kong,
治
that
之
they
下
are very
形成的一
disciplined,
个
right?
法治的习
Well,
惯
yes, because
香港
Hong
为
Kong
什么
people
香
have
港？香
discipline
港其实
because
不是
that
因
they
为
are
民主
under
的
the
香港，
rule
香
law
港
of
因为自
the
由，因为
training
法治。
infrastructure
我们当时香
set
港
up
回
by
归
the
的时候，
British
很多人都
government.
说，你看
In the
在英国
handover,
统治之
a
下，
lot
他
of
们也
people
没有
said
民
that,
主选举。
you know,
但
a lot
是
of people said under the
香港
British
有
law
部
they
分
don't
民
have
主
a
选举，但是香港
democracy.
有
But the
法
thing is
治，
that Hong
这
Kong
个
has
法治是
absolute
非常
rule of
严
law.
格的。香港人，
Rule of
我认
law
识的香港朋
is
友，
very,
我在
very
香港这么
stringent.
多，
And I
我
know a
最
lot
感
of
慨
people
就是
in
香
Hong
港
Kong.
人
I
在整
know
个
that
生
Hong
活中
Kong,
各种
when
遵
they
守法律
when
的
they
秩序，而在共
in
产
their
党就
everyday's
是
life,
在
they
共产
obey
党
the
这
rule of law
个
because
接
they are
管了之
protected
后
by
来
the
的时
rule of
候，
law.
那么
But the
这个
ones that
法
take
治是被
over
损害的
of
最多
the
的地方。我现在
Chinese
说，我觉得郭
Communist
先生
Party,
说一个很
what
重
they
要的
have
问题，就是说
damaged
现在这个
is
送
the
中
rule
法
of，law.
你知道谁
Now
会
this
最
is
倒霉
Doomsday's
吗？
law. Do you know who is
大陆
actually
在
in
香
the
港的
Doomsday?
贪官和他
In
们的
fact,
财
a
产，
lot
你
of
想
the
想他们多少人是罪
a
犯？
lot of the
这些多少人是
corrupt
大非大
officials
陆
that they
认
have
为
a
的
lot
罪
of
犯？你
assets
知
in
道
Hong Kong. Do
你
you
们
know
的
they
命
are
你
they
们的
are
小老婆，
probably
你们的
facing the
财产，
Doomsday? Do you
你
know
们的
they have the
孩子，
mistresses, they have the
他们的这个
concubine, and
命
they
运
have
在
the
香港这
children?
些东西
And
是
then
掌
do you
握
know
在
that they can be
掌握在
protected?
共产
No,
党手里
because
的。
all of that
在
things
如果
actually
送
in
中
the
法是
hands
对
of
的，
the
所以
in the
呢，
hands of
郭
the
先生应该
in the hands of the
请你
Chinese
这句话。
government. So that is
Susan,
why that you are
Sasha
really
Gong went
confronted with
there.
the Doomsdays.
Went there.
That's right.
刚
It's
才
normally Miles, but Sasha went there.
那其实这个是这个的 Sasha 做得很好。
这个我觉得刚才呢，
I think
实际上
that
莎莎
in
讲的呢
fact
非常正确
what Sasha，
这里面有
stated
两个
was correct.
隐含的核心问题
There
呢，
were
实际
two
上大家
core
都要注
questions
意
that
到的，
must really remind
就是
you
共产党
to
一
pay
再宣传
attention
的
to
仇恨西
in
方
the CCP
啊
because，they
把
live
过
in
去
the
香港100
people
年
of
当成说
the
中
West
国人的
in the
耻
last
辱，
100 years. And
放他
then,
姥姥
you
那
know,
个屁
the
呀！
thing
什么叫
is
耻辱啊？
that they think that
我愿意
the
再被
Chinese
耻辱
are being
1000年
insulted by the West because
啊
that！they
香港
were
就是过去100年，由于英国人在那里创造了一个最重要的，刚才小夏说的法律叫规则啊。咱不说民主，香港没那么多民主，但是它有自由，法律和自由。共产党和西方所有的资本主义国家、文明国家的最大的差距，它没规则。这就我老跟半头先生说，他们老想什么法律、自由、民主、道德、宗教，还有规则。但是这帮王八蛋他没规则呀，他直接给你踢裆下面去呀，他跟你玩裤裆以下的游戏呀，啊，然后呢，你就一定会输。今天的香港就是一个最好的分界岭，啊，共产党就是说，老子在这儿就不玩规则，我不但我要弄假法律利益我，打破中英香港签的50年法律，那不算数了。我现在要搞立法23条，23条不过瘾，那搞加法，叫逃犯法律。你见过人类上什么叫逃犯法律？逃犯叫法律，它不叫法，它叫法律，叫家规。在这种情况下，香港勤劳的人民上大街上以后，还按照你的法律，不逾越那个警车。你看这边是走车，这边走人。然后警察把路给挡住，大家在这会儿站着喊，让我过去，让我过去，还是这么老实。这就是一个文明和粗鲁最大的分界。一个香港的警戒线看出了共产党与资本主义的差距。香港过去所谓的100年屈辱带来的法律和规则和共产党统治了70年10岁中国人的差距，东西方的差距。高和低的差距，裤腰带以上和裤腰带以下的差距，这个不是开玩笑。你让小夏，你让巴东先生回到香港去抗议，参加这个活动，他100%不放过那个香港警戒线，绝对不会去冲撞警察去。你让我参加这个游行去，我第一个就跳过那警戒线去。不是我难道就不好吗？是不是我是人种有问题啊？不是的，你别来搞那么严肃，我们多媒体，你我让你的黑围都完了，别虚伪了，不要虚伪，当虚伪。这为什么我要说的是想说这个最严肃的问题？共产党在中国埋下了种族的仇恨。他说香港的100年是西方的侵略， 他说这个西方的法律是对中国人的量身定做欺负中国人的。再一个就是潜移默化说中国人种有问题。王岐山说的，中国人呢100年都开不了智，就像猪狗一样。但是今天我想说的另外一个大的表现，香港今天的运动证明了中国人种绝对没问题。香港人今天99%都是大陆人种，广东族、北京族、新疆族，不管是什么族，今天这个黄色人种没有问题。所以今天也证明了人种没问题。都是大陆人种，广东族、北京族、新疆族，不管是什么族，今天这个黄色人种没有问题。所以今天也证明了人种没问题，共产党仇恨。班头先生那天我们谈到说，我说这个谈到一个事情，我说你上，他说为什么要我上啊？我说中国人呢，很多人喜欢外国人、白人，他说为什么呀？我说中国人崇洋媚外啊，他为啥崇洋媚外啊？我说共产党崇洋媚外啊，你能告诉我共产党为啥崇洋媚外吗？陈夏，
俄国人出来的。
为什么俄国人出来的？
共产党是俄国人培养出来的，还不就是？
我告诉你，你说对了一半。半头先生没有说到问题。从我小出生，走出山沟看大墙最多的像马克思、恩格斯、列宁、斯大林，最后一个叫毛泽东。老蒋、毛泽东，就全都是俄罗斯人、宛洋人，就一个中国人。中国人骨子里认为像这样的鬼佬他们认为叫鬼佬的，这都是高人我们都是低人。所以说，全人类上最在中国历史上把人类给种族化的、给歧视化的，共产党第一个，把全国人民要拜这些洋人为爹的，就是共产党。而且大家要记住黑人分黑人，他们现在对非洲人这样。我告诉你，你去看看共产党过去成天叫亚非拉，他们骨子里边对黑人好吗？你见过中央领导的几个家人孩子跟黑人结婚呢？他们私下里又埋下黑人的仇恨。本人1983年底就去过非洲，我是跟中国人政府官员去的。到那个地方去的共产党对，除了弄象牙、整木头，没有任何尊重黑人的。但是到哪去都说是白人的不好。共产主义的本身，我想告诉大家，没规则。
Party, and essentially the rest of the free nations of the world said that looks like a fair deal, and it looks like the Hong Kong people should govern themselves. I will tell the people in Beijing, you're heading towards a crisis. This is not going to go away. You saw over 1 million people in the streets today. Young people, old people, people of all ages, of all incomes, took to the streets in Hong Kong under sweltering heat and humidity to essentially say, we're not going to tolerate this. I don't think this is going to end until either they go back to the original agreement and the people in Hong Kong can govern themselves, or Hong Kong is actually going to declare their independence. And I know that's something that Wan Qishan and Xi stay up at night worrying about. What they worry about is Chinese people taking control of their own destiny. So I think you're heading towards a situation, you're either going to go back to the original agreement, which gave the Hong Kong people their freedom, or you're going to go to some sort of situation where the Hong Kong people are going to say, we've had enough of this, we want our independence.
Actually, I have a question here is that, well, China regards Hong Kong, Taiwan as a renegade province, and Hong Kong, if someday, something like June 4th, happened in Hong Kong, what do you think we should do, we in the free world, besides protest?
We can never allow another June 4th to happen again. That's what I think was so powerful about these celebrations on this June 4th. I think as the years progress, and this is, I put it out earlier from the Financial Times, this is the 100-some thousand people in Hong Kong coming together for June 4th. We can never allow a situation like June 4th to happen again. It is really a disgrace to the West that we allowed June 4th to happen in the first place, Tiananmen Square, and didn't step in and didn't say, hey, this is not the way, you can't do this to your own people. So I think that the West is now very, very aware of this, and let's be specific. Under President Trump, you've had a much bigger engagement in Taiwan. I mean, we've sent carrier battle groups through the Taiwanese Strait. We've just cut another new arms deal with Taiwan where we're reinforcing them militarily. There's been an active engagement, right, with Taiwan about Taiwan's continuing independence and freedom. And so I think that you're going to see, I believe, as this becomes, look, the Western media and people in the West can't close their eyes to 1 million people in the streets. The people in Hong Kong have to understand their fate's in their own hand. The more that they demand and the more that their resistance to pressure from the Chinese, you're going to force the West to basically, to basically confront this. And we can't have another Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square is a disgrace, not just for the Chinese Communist Party and China, what they did to these freedom-loving students back 30 years ago. It's a disgrace to the West who stood there and let it happen. And I think people learned their lessons. And I will tell you, I think as this goes forward, you're going to have some situations that are going to be very tense, because you can see the police today were very nervous, right? A lot of those guys didn't want to be there when they saw the size of that crowd. So let's hopefully tonight this ends peacefully. But I got to tell you, if they put that extradition treaty in, who knows what's going to happen here, right? Because you had a lot of young people in that crowd today that I think want freedom and, are tired of the Tony Chungs and these other people being imprisoned. Joshua Wong's in prison. He's not even out there today. Joshua Wong, they extended his prison thing. I think Tony just got sentenced like a week ago for vandalism to a flagpole or something. They're looking to put these young people in prison to keep them off the streets. So I think we're going to have to see how this thing develops. But the Chinese Communist Party, people in Beijing got to understand, there was 1 million people in the streets today demanding their freedom. And I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon.
You can't deport 1 million people.
现在香港，刚才巴顿先生也说的非常重要的事情，就是8964是西方这个失去最重要的改变中共的这个邪恶体制的机会，这非常的重要。这才让共产党在这个世界上又残酷的虐待了中国几十年、30年，这是西方的巨大的失败。然后西方又在伊拉克战争、南斯拉夫战争这些事情上，被引开了注意力，给中共了喘息的机会。更夸张的事情，2001年，你们给了中共2个最大的礼物，给了他2个用共产党的人员的话说，美国人给了共产党2个起死回生丸。第一个是奥林匹克运动会，第二个就是 WTO。从2001年的1.45万亿美元的 GDP， 到2018年的14万亿美元，18年时间，每年将近1倍的往上增长。更夸张的事情，2018年的它的货币整个的这个货币供应量达到32万亿美元，然后让共产党有了大量的金钱来维稳、压迫人民和研发武器、布置军队。19大修改了宪法，重新在中国大街小巷飘满了爹亲娘亲不如党亲的共产主义的 魔鬼蛊惑的谣言。每个寺庙文化人员都要必须学共产党的新的思想。可以说，西方世界错过了89，西方的罪魁祸首和自私造成的。2001年，这两个WTO 和奥林匹克是西方对中国人民犯下最大的错误。这就是班头先生在很多地方演讲，是我们的资本培养了他们，所以西方有责任、有义务铲掉这个魔鬼集团。川普总统说共产党强奸了美国，